Hello and welcome to the API Week with Portsman. Here's Kushi from Vilayak's team, and I'm getting such an awesome opportunity to empower #women in tech by hosting two beautiful women. This is gonna be a collaborative session, so you have to collaborate and work along with the speakers. Cool. I can see so much buzz in the chat, and believe me, it's very amazing to see you all interacting as well as parallelly looking forward to learn something out of it. At the beginning, I mentioned about API Week, right? Now, what's that? So, it's a week long event. It's all about exploring the latest developments in the API technology and connecting with industry experts and community partners to learn more about this rapidly evolving field. During this API week, we'll be presenting a series of challenges that will test your skills and knowledge. This will challenge, these challenges are designed to be fun and engaging, and they'll give you the opportunity to learn more about APIs and connect with other participants from around the world. We have got some great prizes lined up for the winners of the challenges, so be sure to sign up and participate. Here's the look at of our schedule for the event of for the week. We are excited to kickstart this amazing series and make you API literate in this less than a week with amazing lines up with speakers and opportunity community partners. Join us for this event. Our speakers bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to table, and they are eager to share their insights with you. Our community partners are also an essential part of the event, and they're here to help you learn more about the tools and resources available to you as you explore the world of APIs. Shout out to DevStrons and Coders Evoke. We hope you all join us for all these exciting sessions, and don't forget to invite your friends and colleagues to participate too. The more the murmurs. Okay, moving forward the session, I would like to welcome both of the speakers in the frame. So, welcome to Pooja Gera and Priyanka Prasad. These both beautiful people are the postman student leaders from India representing their campus or community. They worked hard around from being expert challenge and joining to make you overall API literate. Let's hear from them.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm sure you're doing really, really well. And I can see that there are a lot of people in the chat. Devyani, can you quickly bring up the introduction slide that we have? I made it, just like with a little thought about it. So, yeah, I would really
Yeah.
appreciate if we can get that up. Awesome. As you can see, everyone, I am Pooja Gira, and I recently became the runner up in the health category for Microsoft Imagine Cup India Regionals. I was also the winner of VMware Cap Hackathon, the second runner up at Flipkart with 3.0. I have been to a lot of hackathons and I've had the pleasure to win almost about 25 of them. I've mentored, judged, and organized 10 plus hackathons. And I was an intern at Microsoft last summer, and I'll be joining as a software engineer at Palo Alto Networks very soon. And I'm a Postman student leader, and I'm also a OnePlus student ambassador. I'm so amazed to be here, and I am really, really, really excited to tell you all about what I know about APIs and have a quick discussion and Q&A about whatever you want to learn. Because my responsibility today is to ensure that you take away the best learnings possible. Over to you, Devani.
Okay, that's great. So let's get started. We can start with
और
you,
जो
Pooja.
पहले वाला जो दो पंचर एक साथ
Hi
जोड़े थे ना
everyone,
And
am I audible?
वहीं से वो फट गया
Yes,
दोबारा
of course, Priyanka.
uh,
दोबारा भी से पंचर नहीं लग पाएगा
Can we get to the next
sorry,
slide?
Priyanka.
Hi everyone, good evening.
मैं
My
सोच
name
रहा
is
तुम इजीली
Priyanka
जाओगे
Prasad and currently I'm working as a backend developer and you can say full stack developer in Shiprocket. And I've
चलो कोई नहीं
previously
गाड़ी में
worked as a
जगह तो नहीं
technical
है
content developer in an edtech startup called Pepinsta. And yeah, this is a little bit about myself. You can see
तो
here
कोई
in
दिक्कत
the
नहीं है
slide,
सुबह तक
like I
बात
have
या फिर सुबह
been
कोई
like
दिक्कत नहीं है आप मूवी
crowdsource influencer
फिर
and
बोलेंगे कि एंड
campus
टाइम से मेरे
hero
को धोखा
and
देती
all
है
that. So yeah, I'll be taking you through what is API and introduction to API. And yeah, that's it about myself. Okay, so let's get started with today's agenda. First, we will have a look at what is API, basically what is postman, what is API. Then we will see what is request and responses. Then we will have practical session, trying out of what all are the types of requests and all that. Then we will be followed up with sources and then followed by doing. Or can we get to the next slide? So, okay, let's first understand what is API. So, let's take a real life example over here. And so, imagine you go to a restaurant. What will you do first? You will order some food, right? So, here, let's say you order some food to the waiter. And what waiter will do is go and ask the chef to make the food, right? And as it has the physics that and so and API works as waiter. It will take the request from the client, give it to the server, and whatever the response is, it will show it to the client. So in this way, you can understand what is API. Maybe you got the overview of overview of what is API. All right, let's get to the next slide. Okay, so basically it allows services to communicate with each other. Okay, so API, application programming interface. All right, so let's say we as a developer sometimes we need to access the data from a different server. Like we don't have the access to the server. So what they have done is they have created API for that. So we can integrate API of whatever. Let's say Google has provided us API. So we can integrate Google API in our system and we can access data. So the data in Google. So this is the thing that simplify API and also nowadays the thing about is we don't need to listen from your make up audible. Am I audible?
Actually, yes, you are audible now.
Okay. So let's take up a
Yeah.
bit technical example over here to understand this. So let's say you open your Instagram to take up a photo. I think I can switch off my camera. Now I think am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Priyanka, right now.
Okay, so let's say you open up your Instagram, and when you are clicking a photo, you're accessing some hardware level APIs, and whenever you just add some GIF or text into that, you get they comes from a public API, and whenever you just post it to your profile, there is some public like private API like inside Instagram. They uses their private API to publish that particular post to only so that only your followers can view that particular post. All right, so this is where you can say okay. So this is a bit technical example over here to understand about API. Hello. Okay, so there is API for each and everything. Let's say you want to build something like bot or something, you can use APIs from Discord, and there is API for Spotify, there is API for Twitter, available by Twitter. So yeah, there is API for each and everything. How many of you have built something on top of, like say, let's say weather application or something like that? Anyone? Like it's the very first application that we as a developer make. Uh, Maybe like weather application. Or how many of you have integrated any API in your project? And can you name any one of the API like that you have integrated in your application? Like what kind of application it was and how you got the API and all that? Oh, cool. So there is API for each and everything. Let's get ahead with the next slide. Okay, so there is, how many of you have seen this Lego bricks? Like they have played with Lego bricks. So it's like the system. So you post stuff that you together in this, in this software system. Uh,
Priyanka, actually, you are not audible right now. Priyanka, ah, should I?
Do you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so sorry for the a lot of voice, and I saw the chats as well. So sorry for the a lot of noise interruptions, and because she was traveling and she was taking at the same time, and I wanna take it all from the very starting. I mean, it won't take much time. It's a bit very faster. I will go through all the sites at the from the very first. Okay, cool. So today's agenda of this program is to getting with the API, to all about making the stuff more accessible to the APIs, and it is very getting started towards it. So it can be accessible for beginners as well as intermediate level. So by taking it from here, the agenda of the event is API and Postman, right? So I hope you all are familiar about APIs. You have been built something out of it, right? And Postman as well. I mean, that's a collaborative platform for testing out APIs and building out something out of it. It provides authorizations. You can see all the queries parameters and in one dashboard. So um, that's a intro, and then we will follow the request and responses that you will send to the server, and you're getting all the responses on the basis of what you have been requested, whether you are looking out for any pages in an application or anything, right? And then there are few things which we all gone with the hands on. I think Pooja will be there taking that part. And the last thing will be, the resources for which is accessible in the internet, and which is free for you. And at last, we will take all the Q&A panel, right? Let's go out for a very good example that we are having in the real world. The APIs are digital restaurant. So if one of the, like, if you are I mean, if you are requesting food from the hotel, and you're having a waiter as a medium to convey the information whether you want uh, what menu, what food items you want from the menu, right? So the waiter will be the medium. So in the same scenario, in the computer applications, when we build, there is two different things. Client as a person who is requesting waiter, which is API, to the kitchen or server basically. So this is basically the real world problems. Sorry, the real world example of the I can say in the computer system, right? Looking forward to the what is an API. So API interfaces allow services to communicate with each other. As I mentioned, if client has been request, then it should be there will be a server where the the things gonna happen, and all the backend things, whichever the properties they are assessing. So it's all done by communication medium, that is API. Then software has become more complex and collaborative over the years. Developers no longer need to create every service from scratch, right? So, uh, like there have been a lot of complex and collaborative problems which which we developers need to build, like in GitHub, right? Which we are having, push the code, and it is accessible to all the developers out there. So it's something like that. Then APIs allow developers to access data from a service like Google or Twitter without any knowledge of how the code base has been implemented. I mean, it's saying like you don't need to care about the server code, and you just need to focus on what you want from the client side, and just hit an API to get all the data or resources you are want from that service. Cool. So a bit more technical. I think you have been seen in the Instagram, right? So Instagram, when you click any photos, or make a boomerang or something like that, make a video, and then you can post it on the story. So you have to be concerned, like whether it can be shared to the some of the friends that you mark up on the close list, right? And so here is the example of it. The server is all taking care of it, and the API is the medium which is actually responsible for taking those actions. Cool. So there have been almost everything, as Priyanka has been mentioned. Like there has been uh, a lot of APIs present out, whichever accessible to the server, and you can create applications out of it. So there are cat APIs. If you don't like cat, you're having dog APIs. And I built the an application for climate check by using the Open Weather Map API. So you can check it out as well, right? And in the further sessions by API 102, or maybe 103, then I gonna take it for the Spotify API, and we will build some stuff, you know. Yeah. Then it can be, if you are building any kind of softwares, uh, it can be a lot of codes are there, but it is very awesome to say this. You can build all the application from using just APIs, just integrating it on your application. As when you play on your childhood, like Lego bricks is the one of the example. I have one thing in my on my table. This one, this is built of all Lego bricks, right? I mean, you can see just on my camera. Let me just remove my screen. Cool. So you can just see it over. It's all built of Lego bricks. So we are actually connecting these things and building the tree or eyes and hat. So it's all built of Lego bricks. Cool. So that's how the APIs comes into picture, and you can integrate all the APIs to build up software. Cool. So there has been the Postman, um, which is responsible, which is supporting API Week, and Postman is a collaborative API development platform, as I mentioned on the very first. It simplifies creating, using, and testing APIs with a user interface. And you can see 98% of Fortune 500 organization using Postman, like PayPal and Philips, Atlassians, right? Uber. That's 65% of global 2000 organization using Postman. So that's a really awesome thing. By using Postman, you can hands out all these stuff in this session. So don't worry about that. Yeah, cool. So working on APIs, as you can see, which we are previously, if you are querying for any um a URL, then you need to hit the curl command, right? Yeah, I think it's ever happening on when I am running this Pop OS, which is a Debian based distro. It's having we always need to access curl commands for installation. I think you are familiar about that if you are using Linux. But if not, so later on and now as well, curl command will be there. But as of now we are having a particular dedicated software which is Postman for that, so we don't need to worry about all the things, and it will take care of a lot of things like authorization or anything you want to be want to assess, want to get request, post, or patch or delete, whether anything, it will take care of all. Cool. So I would like to, bring up Pooja on the stage. I think she will take care of your practical, experimental thing, right? And welcome, Pooja.
Hi everyone. Okay, awesome. So finally I am here and just want to know from everybody in the chat, is there somebody who doesn't understand Hindi? Because that is very important for because of how I'm going to take this forward. So if there is anybody who doesn't understand Hindi, please tell me in the chat, or if you do understand Hindi, I would appreciate if you drop your favorite emoji in the comment section.
For sure, for sure.
Go
I
on, I'm
think I
waiting.
I understand. मुझे पता है.
Okay, awesome. So you drop your favorite emoji in the chat. Which is your favorite emoji?
Yeah. Tada.
Okay, I'm seeing it. Okay, so Anshuman understands very good.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So at any point, if you still want me to repeat any of the parts that I said, please do let me know in the chats, because then again, like I said before, it is my responsibility that you understand things. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide.
For sure. Yep.
Okay. So earlier, when you were being told about there's like a waiter who basically takes your order, goes to the kitchen, and gives you the stuff you need, right? So similarly, now we'll understand things in a more technical jargon manner. So the client is basically asking the server. Now, when we ask for something politely, अब server के पास काफी important सामान है, बिना server के सामान के client would not, do anything. Of course we need that, so the client is like very polite and it goes like, it requests the server that please आपके पास जो भी data है वो आप मुझे दे दो. So that's what we call a request, when a client is asking server for something to get. Okay, then server is like, क्योंकि आप बड़े लोग हैं, they have a lot of data, तो वो आराम से बस रिस्पॉन्स देंगे. So then they'll be like, हाँ चलो ठीक है, तुम एक नॉर्मल क्लाइंट हो, मेरे पास हजार और क्लाइंट्स है तुम्हारे जैसे बहुत है. So then they send a response to the client. So that's how we'll understand things. Always remember, the client is the one which requests the data from the server, data, resources, services, whatever it can be, and the server is the one which sends a response. हमारे लिए दोनों चीजें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. अगर सर्वर के पास रिक्वेस्ट नहीं आएगी तो उसे पता नहीं चलेगा what it has to do. So the request contains everything that is needed for the server to understand कि client को बताना क्या है. और अगर हमारे पास रिस्पॉन्स नहीं होगा तो क्लाइंट शो क्या करेगा. सो दैट इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके, सो on the network, two things are happening. The client is requesting the server for resources, and the server is responding with the said resources. Okay, awesome. We'll move on to the next slide. ठीक है. सो नाउ व्हेन वी मेक रिक्वेस्ट, हम काफी सारी चीजें अपने माइंड में ध्यान रख के रिक्वेस्ट को इनिशिएट करते हैं. सो द फर्स्ट थिंग इज द मेथड. द मेथड इज essentially something that tells what kind of a request it is. Okay, there are a lot of methods: get, post, port, delete. I'm just saying them right now, but we'll explain this, in the following slides. Then the address or the endpoint URL, that means कि कहाँ पर हमारा सर्वर सिचुएटेड है, वेयर डू वी हैव टू गेट आवर रिक्वेस्ट और our services or our resources from. Then there is a path. Now when we're talking about path, let's think of it as an example. If you're in a hotel, okay, let's say that there are like a lot of rooms in the lobby. तो तुम्हारा रूम का नंबर, let's say it's 1004. If you want to get something from your luggage, what you'll do is that you'll go to room number 104 and then get your luggage from there. So that room number 104 is a path which exists in the endpoint of your hotel. So the path is where your resources are actually situated, which basically tells कौन सी चीज उस सर्वर पे you're trying to get from there. Okay, so this is like a very basic analogy that might help you understand. So if things are clear till now, please write a yes in the chat or something of your favorite emoji. I really like interacting with people when it comes to things like these. So do let me know, did you understand it? A yes in the chat would be super amazing, and that would really help me to move forward with having the same analogies and the same flow of content. Okay, awesome. So can we move on to the next slide, please? So now you have it. So this screenshot that you see over here, this is taken from an actual postman interface. So the first part that you see, the get thing, so that is where we specify our methods. Postman ke andar, this is like a drop down. Abhi I'll be showing you how it works. So the first method is the get method that we discussed. Get method very easy, जैसे इंग्लिश में लिखा है वही उसका मतलब है. When we are using the get method, we are getting the data from the server. सिंपल काम है, बस सामान उठा के लेके आना लगेज में से. जस्ट वी हैव टू गेट आवर क्लोथ्स. ओके, दैट इज व्हाट वी हैव टू डू. Next is the post method. Post method is where when we want to send some information. Again, you can think of it like sending a postcard and continuing our luggage one analogy. So if let's say you bought a new top from outside, like you're in Goa and you saw a very cute top and then you bought it and now you want to keep that in your luggage. So you take that top and put it inside your luggage. तुम्हारे पास down one thing I want you to keep in mind, get request करते time हमारे पास कुछ सामान नहीं था. So, when we were just retrieving an object from our luggage. But post request करते time हमारे पास कुछ सामान already है जो हम लेकर जा रहे हैं and then we are accessing our luggage back. Okay. Next we have the put and the patch. Put and patch is basically used for updating information. Now of course अगर हम read कर रहे हैं, अगर हम कुछ send कर रहे हैं, तो हमें obviously requirement कभी हो सकती है when we want to just update the data. For example, let's say that you have academic systems in place, the learning management systems. So let's say uske andar there is my enrollment number there, my name there, and my semester number. Okay, so for 6 months that semester number is going to stay the same. But when I go into the next semester, what will be ideal? Sending the entire block again and increasing the memory, or just updating it? So for that, we also need the update endpoints in our APIs, so that जो भी हमारे पास data है, उस पर we can work on things like that. So put and patch are used for updating information. Difference दोनों में बहुत similar सा ही है, साथ में ही लिखा हुआ है. So for put request, basically what happens is that the entire object gets updated. And patch is used for when you want to just update, let's say, one key in the data. Okay, So that's that. Then deleting information, it's again as simple as it can get. So if you want to delete something, let's say that you are getting naughty and you want to, remove your friend's makeup or something, the Big Boss analogy that they just like take things out of the people's luggage and throw them somewhere. So I don't know why they do that, but yeah. So that way you can also delete the information. So a way to remember this is called CRUD. So these are basically CRUD operations. C is for create, which is basically get. I'm so sorry. Create is for post. Then get is read, and U is update, which is put and patch, and then D is delete. So you have to remember the CRUD part. Okay. So if everything is clear, drop a yes in the chat. Okay. I'm just like still waiting for some people to say yes, and then we'll move forward. Awesome. Fair. Okay. So now, one thing I want you to see here, like in the screenshot that is there on the right bottom side, the https://google.com/search. So what happens that iske bhi we have three parts. The first part is the protocol. Generally, the protocols are HTTPS or HTTP. Then you have the address of the server where the server is situated. It can be www dot something, or it can also be your local host. Okay. And then the last part is the path. We just talked about the path, that a part where the destination where the request can actually go and grab something. Okay. Awesome. So now let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so when you're building a request, there are some parameters that we talk about. There are some authorization. There are headers and body. I'll talk about all of this in the demo that I'm going to give. So moving on to the next slide. Right. So the requests have a very important thing. Like I told you to remember that, when you are putting something back in your luggage, you are taking something, right? So that is essentially the body of your API. So the body of the API is used when you are trying to send some data or update some data, because obviously you need to tell the server what it needs to work on. If you don't send any data, then of course it won't understand what to do with it. It can't create data on its own. I mean, of course, if you can incorporate ChatGPT sometime there, but working with data like name, email, birth, that is something that you need to specify. You know, so the data types can be different types: form data, JSON, text, HTML, XML, files, GraphQL, and a lot more things. With REST APIs, JSON is the most common one that is used. So that is something. Moving on to the next slide. Yeah. So of course, when you send the data, now in the network pipeline, the diagram that we saw, the first thing is request. The what we have to remember is that request के अंदर body जा भी सकता है, body नहीं भी जा सकता है. And then when you receive responses, then responses के साथ you get these things. You get data, you get headers, and you get status codes. So status code, most common, you might have seen 200 OK, which basically tells everything went well. 201 created is for when you're sending some data, and then if the request is successful, then you get 201 code. And then 404 is also the most common one. Everybody has seen error 404 not found. So 404 is when things went wrong. Okay. So yeah, moving on to the next slide. Right. So now we'll do a hands-on thing wherein you go to this URL and we'll fork a collection, a Postman collection, and then we'll work in it. So can we please put that in the chat? Awesome. Let me just also quickly open it. Right. So when you click on that link, you will be seeing this. Divani, can you put my screen on? Yeah, awesome. So I hope everybody can see this now. Just a second. I'm having a bad throat today, but I hope that doesn't. I'm gonna assure you that that won't cause a problem today. So when you click on that link, you'll see something like this. So this is basically a collection, a workspace where you have these four collections available to you. What you have to do is you have to go on the basics of API one. I'll just like zoom this in a little. Okay, so you go to the basics of API one and you click these three dots, and then you click create a fork. Okay. So what will happen when you create a fork is that you can actually give a name to the fork. It's similar to how you create forks on GitHub, but this is how we're gonna do it here. The interface is a little different, so I'm gonna walk you through. So you can give fork labels as you want. They don't need to be unique. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna just say YouTube Live, and then I'm gonna say with awesome people. All right. So okay, I spelled people wrong. Yeah, awesome. Fine. So now I'm just gonna fork this collection. When I do that, it's gonna appear here. So you might see a lot of folks because I do this workshop a lot of times. But yeah, so when you see when you come to this one, you'll see one request, which is the get data request, which is not what we want to focus on right now. So what we're going to do is that we are going to create a new request. So when you have to add a new request, you just click on the three dots right beside the collection, and then you click on add request. Okay, when you click on add request, you get this new request interface. I'm just gonna call this learning with Google because I'm gonna show you something. Okay, and yeah, so first thing we're gonna do is that I'm just gonna quickly copy a URL. Right. So this is google.com. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this get request over here. You can see that this is the drop down that I was talking about, the different API methods. So right now I'm going to send just a simple get request to Google. Okay. Now you see I've received the response. It says 200 OK status. And I can see this response. If I view this here, you can see that it's Google's page minus the CSS, but you get the idea. Right. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to talk about some parameters. So parameters are essentially something that basically enable the API to know what specific things you are asking for. For example, Google is a search engine, right? So let's say that we want to search for French fries, okay? Because I'm feeling a little hungry at this point. So we'll search for French fries. So I'm going to add a key as Q and the value as French fries. All right. So you can see the URL getting changed. There's a question mark, a Q, and let me zoom this in. You see the URL has been changed a little. It's slash question mark Q equal to French fries, the value that I added in my collection, in my request. Now I'll just send this. So what happens is that I get the same page, but here you see the only difference is that in the search box, the French fries is visible over there. The query parameter that we wanted to add is visible over there. Now you must be wondering, but that does not give us any results. You want to search for the French fries, right? So what we'll do is that we're going to change the path a little, because google.com is the host, like it's the base URL that you want to go for. But if you want to search for it, they say, we remembered that for the path, the correct path to get our luggage is to go into room number 1004. So if you want to search for French fries, the correct path is to go google.com/search. So we'll try that, and then we'll send a get request once again. Now you see the entire page, which basically has all of the results by Google. And yeah, I mean, that is something that I wanted to show. How do query parameters work? Now what we'll do is I'll actually wait a second. I'll search for French fries in the real Google page. So like that is not the Postman collection. So this is what happens when I search for French fries. Now I'll copy the URL, the URL that Google has made, and now I'll come back to my collection and paste it and show you something is amazing is going to happen. So you see that there are a lot of parameters that Postman took on its own by the URL that we added over here. So this is a very very useful tool that I personally really like. Now you don't have to worry about what these parameters do. This is something, I mean, something that Google must be learning on its own. That, you know, what is the location that the person is asking from and stuff like that. So that's something. And then the headers are also a very important part of the requests that we send. So the headers are essentially something that basically tell the server what kind of a client is requesting it. Like let's say if the client is logged in, or if the client is the location of the client, or if the client has some things cached, blah blah blah. So there are a lot of things that the headers can do. It is very important, definitely. Also expected to use these headers when you're working with APIs, as a good practice. Okay, awesome. Now moving on, we will be going to the documentation. So again, you know, go to these three dots and then click on view documentation. So this documentation is another very useful feature of Postman, wherein whatever APIs that you make, you can actually add a complete readme for it over there, so that if anybody uses your APIs anytime in the while, you know, if let's say I am using this API, Ali has made this API. So if I want to understand what goes in what requires, what kind of parameters do I have to use, or what kind of let's say how does a request body look like, or anything like that. So for that, we really recommend that you use the documentation feature. It's very 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 good. So all of the APIs that I build, I make sure that I have a documentation for, you know, my teammates or the developers that I'm working with, for them to use. Okay. So right now what we're going to do, we're going to work with the book API. Okay. So there is something called the base URL, like we saw in the Google wala cheese, that google.com was the base URL that we are, that where our server is basically situated at. So when we want to access the books API, so there is also like a certain place where this is situated at. So for that, the our base URL is api101.up.railway.app, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new request once again, and I'm going to call this get books, and it's going to stay at get only. So I'm going to paste this over here, and I'm just going to send the request for now without anything. So what you see over here right now is that it just gives me hello world, right? What went wrong over here, or what I didn't do, is that I did not give it a path of where I want my data to come from. So when we go to the documentation, we see that for to access the books API, we have to go to the path of book. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here, write book, save it, and then send it again. So now you see I got a book returned, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Kiyosaki. All right. So that's something. Now there is one thing I want you all to understand. Postman has a very interesting feature of setting variables. Like you set variables in your general day-to-day coding, where we are using the dry paradigm, which is do not repeat yourself. So what you can do is that you can also set the variable over here. You have to just highlight the part where the base URL is. You know, you can just like click on set as variable, and set as new variable, and name it base URL. Okay. Now I will be selecting the scope as just the collection. And as soon as I set it, you can now see that our base URL can now be accessed. And if I send this request once again, you can see that it works perfectly. Okay. So this is what it means by performing a get method on an API. The get method retrieves something from your server. तो अभी हमारे पास ये book retrieve होकर आ गई. Okay. Now going back to the documentation. Okay, so now what happens if you want to access, let's say, one specific book? Okay, so one thing I want you to notice is that is this book's ID is 268. So what we'll try to do now is we'll try to retrieve this 268 book ID. So I'll add request once again. Try to name your request, you know, according to something that people would understand. Get specific book by ID. So now what I have to do is I can just add the base URL, okay? Because that I had already set as the variable, right? And then book, and then I'll do forward slash and give it a path of the ID that I mentioned. It was 268, right? So when I hit send over here, it gives me the same book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Let's try with some other ID. I'm not sure if it exists, but let's try. Okay, so number 267 is not found. Let's try with ID number 4. Okay, so ID number 4 book does exist, and you can see that it's Harry Potter books. But now you can also like see one more thing also. So the status changes to 404 not found when I try to request for a resource that does not exist. अगर है ही नहीं book वहां पर तो हमें मिलेगी कैसे, right? So that's what happens when you make a mistake that your body says that it is not found, and this book not found is a message that you can configure while using APIs, that if your server like returns a 404 error, then you can also configure कि आप अपने user को क्या दिखाना चाहते हैं. Better error messages always are recommended, because that essentially helps people to know what went wrong. Like for example, if you are trying to log in into a system, and then your error message says something went wrong, that is considered to be a bad user experience, as if you tell them that your password is incorrect, right? So you basically are telling the user what issue is going to happen. Okay, awesome. Now I'll just come back to this where okay, so we did the get specific book one. I'll just save this. Now what we'll do is that we'll try to create a new book. So I want you to give me an author and a book name. So everybody in the chat, give me one author and a book name of whichever book is your favorite. And you can call yourself as the author also. I don't mind the name of your autobiography, maybe. Go on, I'm waiting. Okay, so Abhishek says that he wants Invisible Man. I think H.G. Wells is the author of The Invisible Man, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I was a nerd back in school, so I read a lot of books. All right. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna create a new request. Where is that? Create a new request, and now I'm gonna call this as a post request, because obviously we're trying to create a new book, right? So we'll name add a new book. That is the name of the request. Now again, I have to go to the base URL and then slash book, because that is my endpoint where my book will reflect. Coming back to the documentation, you see that the JSON object that you see over here is basically an example कि आपके server को इस format में request चाहिए. So when you're making the documentation, also realize, also understand this one thing, that somebody who hasn't built the API would not know what kind of keys and values are they expecting, right? You need to specify what data type are you expecting in a certain key, or what is the name of the actual key. So giving an example of the body is considered to be a good practice when you're writing API documentations also. Okay, awesome. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy this JSON object, and then we come back to our post request over here. Now we have to go to body. Okay, we have to send a body, right? So हम body में जाएंगे, and then raw form, and then we'll select JSON, because that is the form of request that we are trying to give. Now I'm just going to paste what I copied from the documentation. The author is H.G. Wells, and it's called The Invisible Man, and I'm just gonna change the URL to invisibleman.com. Awesome. So now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna send this request. So now when I send this request, you see that I got a new ID generated. All right. And now the status is 201 created. 201 created means that our post request has successfully been sent. Hamari book create ho gayi. So if you want to see that if our book has actually been created or not, so we'll go back to the gets a specific book by ID, and the ID was 270. So if I send this over here, you see that the H.G. Wells, The Invisible Man book that we just added is already there now. Okay, so that is how you add a post request. Now coming back to the documentation, now what we're going to do is that we're going to try out the put request. Okay, so if you want to update an existing book, let's say that we want to update the book that we just added only. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we're going to create, add a new request, and put, and I'm going to call this request is update book details, right? So I'm going to have the base URL slash book over here, and in the body now what is going to happen is that the request would change just a little. There is one thing that is mandatory to be added in the body. So can anybody tell me what is something that should not be missed in the body when I'm sending a put request right now? Anybody? Oh, and keep in mind the body is the only thing that we are sending. We're not sending any query parameters. Yes, Anurag, of course, you're right. So the ID is something that we don't want to miss, because obviously we have to tell the server which book are we trying to update. Okay. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to come back here in the documentation, copy the request, the request JSON body from here. ID of our book was 270. So we're going to do that, and now I'm gonna put what Arman said. Rich Dad Poor Dad is the book's name, and I'm not sure. Rich Dad. Would you said Robert, and the book name is Rich Dad Poor Dad. So we're gonna be sending a put request for this. So let's send it. And now it says that it worked. It's giving me a 204 response code, but no content just means that the response did not return any content. So let's just go back and in our get book by specific ID and send this request. Earlier it was HG Wells Invisible Man. Now if we send this request over here, you see that it updates to what we just gave it. So that is something. Now congratulations, you've done 3 requests. You've done get request, you've done put request, and you've done post request. Now finally what we're going to try out is we're going to try out the delete request. Okay, so quickly going to do that, and I'm just going to add a request again, and we're going to say delete book, choose the method to be delete, and then go with base URL slash book over here. Come back to the documentation, see what is there. So to delete a book, what we have to do is we have to add base URL slash book slash ID of the book. So that is how the documentation tells you that this is how I need the details. This is the format that I need things in. So all I have to do is that when I do slash book, I have to do slash 270, because that was the ID of our book. So when we send this request, it just says 200 okay, and book with ID 270 is deleted. Now, when I go back to get the specific book by ID, if I send a request, it just says book not found. So now in this very short demo, you learned a lot of things. You learned how headers work. You learned what are query parameters, path parameters. You also learned different ways to send, get, put, post, and delete request in Postman. And yeah, I'm just gonna give it back to Divyani. So Divyani, are you here? Okay. Awesome. So, Devani, can we bring up the slides back, please?
Yeah.
Fine.
Are
So
you
now
doing
you
it?
have successfully done this activity. You can do it on your own terms also. You can try out the other 3 collections that were present in the workspace. You can, there is one of them which basically tells you about authorization, authentication. Then the other one is about visualization with APIs. And one of them is also for building your own API. So it's very fun stuff over there. So can you move on to the next slide? Right, I just did this. We can move on to the next slide. Right. So, you see this postman student leader label over here. So you can also be a postman student leader on your campus, but before that, you have to take a certification exam, which is now known as the API Fundamental Certification Exam, which basically walks you through the documentation, like I just helped you. And then in the end, you have to just like give a small test. It's not like a test, but you have to submit your collection in a manner that all the test cases are passed. So that is something that you can take, and the team will drop the link of the certification in the chat. All right. So you and I think because of this Postman student expert certification, I was able to learn a lot about APIs that I didn't know existed before. And Postman is a tool that I use on a daily basis, and it's a very, very valuable skill to have also. In a lot of companies, I would say in most of the companies, people use Postman to test their APIs only. So that is something that I would personally recommend all of you to do. Yeah, and moving on to the next slide. The next slide. This link doesn't work anymore. Okay, awesome. So now, you have a chance to win amazing swag. I would request Aminos to come back over here and just, introduce everybody the challenge, the very interesting challenge that we have at this point.
Yeah, awesome. So I just really want to share one of the thing over here first. Okay, just let me know if my screen is visible.
It is.
Okay, so we are having a week-long task for you, all those who are participating by filling the form, and I think you can link the form up here, and you can fill these things, and you can go through all the panel speakers. Pooja is here, and Priyanka is here, today's speaker. And the challenge is all about creating a descriptive blog for the API 101 workshop. You can just clicking this link, assessing um, the session of today's, and you can looping through the process. If you want, if you don't understand any of the thing, you can ask here on the chat. We can take it at last. And you just need to write up blocks by using the platforms Medium, Dev2, or LogRocket or Hashnode. Anything would be looks good for submitting the assignment. And the hashtags would works over here as a tracking purpose. So we want you to use this two hashtag for tracking on the basis of events and on the basis of postman student. And you just need to submit this form by filling it up. So let me just click in this form. And so this is the, I think it's not visible. um, okay, let me stop sharing my screen and I will share it back. Okay, cool. So I hope my form is visible.
Yep, it is.
Okay, cool. So you just need to, start now. You just need to fill the required address, which challenge you are submitting, and the submission link. It will be the submission link will be, the blog post, or yeah. As of now, it's blog post. We will take these things on the next session as well. So feel free to, submit the assignment. It will helps you to upskill yourself, and yeah, cool. Oh, sorry. I just made the. Oh, sorry. I just missed the swags part. Let me just share it again.
Swag is something that really drives people, and they'll be like,
Oh, yeah, I
yeah.
forgot to, mention these things. So we are having a lot of, Postman goodies. As you can see, the sticker set, and if you want to take it further, you can take it from here. It's up.
Sure. Are you asking me to take the swags because I really want them?
I mean, it's very common. Like these all things will be going for the speakers, those who are top performers. I mean,
Okay.
in all the challenges, like you can see the three challenges over here. So we are going
Mhm.
to give it on like nine folks, those who win all the challenges, and yeah.
Awesome. So, folks, these swags that you see from Postman are of I can't even tell you. I die for Postman's Packs, by the way. Like, this so good. And so you can win sticker sets, teas, and another gift hampers, diaries, and eco cards, and pens and bottles also. One more thing, if you write a very amazing Twitter thread, about whatever you learned from the session today, I personally will be doing a giveaway for you. And the only reason why, I mean, I was not planning to announce this right now, but the only reason why I even said yes to this, because I really, really, really love the audience over here. And it's probably the first time that I've seen such an audience which was so patient that even when there were network issues in the beginning, they all stayed. So a little heart for everybody for that. Really appreciate you staying here. So yeah, of course, in addition to the challenge that you are submitting in the form, you can also tag me. And of course, if you just tag me, then tag me and Bhilai Hacks and Aminos, it's going to be enough, because that is how we can track that you're doing this giveaway that I asked you to do. And yeah, I'll personally get something for you. That's going to be very nice. I keep doing this giveaway, so I know what people want. So that's something. And yeah, again, if anybody has any questions at this point, just feel free to shoot them in the chat. I'm here for a few more minutes. Do you have any questions, Aminos?
I'm just
Somebody who knows everything about APIs.
I'm just going to shoot your social handles over here, so
Oh,
you'll
awesome.
probably reach out. So this is the Twitter handle. Yeah, of Pooja,
Yes,
and you
if
can,
you
if you have any queries, you can just let her know. Yeah,
any queries, if you want me to hop on a quick meeting or discussion with you that I didn't understand this part, maybe you can explain it better to me. I'm always available for that. I really like helping people out. Okay, so what is the difference between post and put methods? So post is used for creating a new object, and put is used to update the same object, right? So that is the difference. So when I was talking about the crud part, so the create operation is done by post method, and update part is done by put method. So that is the difference between these two methods. Awesome, thank you so much for asking that question.
let us know if you have any further question as well. I mean, I have a few questions. Like, some folks are asking, like, what do you mean by object?
I did see that question, and I'm not sure where I mentioned an object, because I was
Okay.
not talking about the JSON object that time. So I'm not sure what happened there. But Akash, if you can explain this to me like a little more, probably a little context about where I said the object, because maybe I meant just a random, a real object
Or
also for like.
maybe I talked about this. Meanwhile, I think I talked about the server side data, which is basically for the JSON, in the JSON format, the object format. So that, I guess, I refer to. So when you hit the basically the request to the server, so you will get a JSON data in return. And that is actually, you can convert into string, or basically JSON. So yeah, I think that what I mentioned about object.
Awesome. Right. So we have two more questions, I think.
Cool. Is it?
Yeah, so I'll answer both of the questions at the same time, because it's obviously the same thing only. So the patch method is used for updating a partial representation of the data. Like, you're updating some portion of the object that you have. Let's say that when I was talking about the example of a learning management system, so my name is there, my enrollment number is there, and my semester is there. Right now, if I do, if I update this and update my semester by using the put method, तो मेरा नाम भी अपडेट होगा फिर से, even if it's same, like it will still consider it to be like a new thing that is getting inserted. Then my enrollment number will also be updated, and then my semester will also be updated. But if I use patch, and patch में मैंने बोला कि मुझे बस मेरा semester update करना, so my enrollment number and my name will not be touched at all. Just my semester will be updated. So we use patch when we have bandwidth restrictions, and even if we don't have bandwidth restrictions, we just do it for simplicity's sake. that we want don't want हर चीज बार बार update हो रही है. And by when we think about updation right now, we just think that okay क्या ही फर्क पड़ता है एक ऑब्जेक्ट में अगर सारी चीज अपडेट हो भी रही है तो. But just think about it, on the back end, on the server side, there is some logic that happens whenever an update happens, right? Let's say that at some point that there's an array which basically is a sorted array of all the names, right? And then whenever a name is getting updated anywhere, वो पूरा sorting method दोबारा call होता है, and then the entire array gets updated over there. अगर पैच मेथड मैं यूज कर रही हूँ तो देन माई जस्ट माई सेमेस्टर गेट्स अपडेटेड. लेकिन पुट मेथड यूज करते ही मेरा सारा अपडेशन भी हो रहा है, देन ये दोबारा सारे मेथड्स भी कॉल हो रहे हैं, विच इज वेरी एक्सपेंसिव, राइट? Yes, that's what I said. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Cool. I
Awesome.
think if you miss something, so I think you can just go to these resources. It's free for everyone. You can just ask your questions in forums, community.postman.com, and yeah. Anything else we missed?
No, I think that we covered all of that. And again, once again, thank you so much for having me here. And it was fun, and I'm actually looking forward to being associated with you in the future also, any way possible.
No worries. So, would love to have you as well. Uh, Kushi, do you have anything for the wrap up? Can I bring you to the stage? Cool.
So, as we come to the end of this API session, I would like to take this opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to Pooja. Thank you so much, Pooja, for your session. Your session was really good and I really loved it out. And I also would like to thank the heartiest thanks to the audience. They stayed with us till the end. And yeah, and maybe we will also have you in future events also. So that's all from me. Thank you, Pooja, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.